Welcome to Chats Around the Kitchen Table. Harriet, Pippa and Julie will be sharing honest conversations about life, spirituality and whatever wants to be spoken today. We'll be talking about what we do and love amongst the realms of spirituality, life and truth. One common intention to share what has helped us along our path in living a healthier, happier and more fulfilling life. Welcome.
What is our intention with this podcast? What do we want it to come out of it?
Well, for me, I think it's a really good opportunity to talk about what we actually do. Like I said to you the other day, I love how all three of us do the same kind of thing but different.
Yeah.
We've all taken like different strands of spirituality or like creating spaces for people to find themselves, find their own healing, but we all do it really differently. And I think it's, for me, I want to show people that they're all of the things.
That anything is possible, I guess.
Yeah, and all of the things are valid and are okay, and something that I might be able to help one person with something, whereas you could help them with something completely different. You do like the coaching kind of element. You're a lot more established, and you're
teacher.
Yeah, your umbrella is
Pippa's
huge.
pointing at me now, because we're recording this, and obviously you can't see us, so Pippa's talking about me, Julie.
So your umbrella is huge, so you have...
But only because of longevity of time, isn't it? 30 years,
so
that's the only difference really, isn't it?
All these different modalities that you have shared with us, and then I feel like we've kind of gone, oh, I like that bit, and I like that bit, and actually that fits in with cold water, or maybe I can mix that up with astrology, and we're making it our own.
And that was always my intention, and I know you both know this, whenever I teach anything, I always say I don't want robots, I want you to do your own thing. And I think that is something very much that I don't want people to just copy what I'm doing. Can if you like, but I want you to do differently, because it doesn't mean that I do it perfectly or right, it's just my way. What do you think, Harriet?
Well, I think that I found that I've learned through you lots of different things, but in order to offer them to people, I've had to make them my own, and in doing that has been a very interesting journey. Yeah,
and I think that's the best way that any of us, or any, I don't know when you call it, healer or person who's finding their journey, is to do it their own way. And take lots of tips from lots of different things. I think that's perfect. Yeah.
And it's just evolving all the time.
Yeah. So we're going to pick a card from the Light Seers Tarot, because we figured that maybe we'll have a smaller audience to start with and grow bigger. So we're going to save the introductions of who we are, but it will be linked somewhere so you can read it. We figured that's probably the best way to go. So Harriet's shuffling these cards, and all three of us use them.
Yes, we have. Well, we could say that our connections are like the kind of labels. The labels that connect us are Reiki, sound frequency healing, tarot, crystals, and spirituality. Any more? Any more labels in there?
Cold water.
Cold water.
Harriet has a sauna, which is lovely, but Harriet, Pippa and I are both into the cold dipping. That's what you showed me, Pip. You showed me that I could get in that cold water, and as you know, I went and bought it all the next day, because that's me.
And seeing Harriet get in her bath in the snow, I think has shown that she is very much a convert.
When I was does anyone else want my card?
So Harriet has just drawn the High Priestess, which of course
is my favourite card in the deck.
Good, and we'll see.
I started swimming in lockdown.
This is cold water swimming?
Yeah, river swimming. So I was doing it way before I met either of you, but I do it less now. And in fact, this morning I had a warm shower. Self-care.
So the card that I've drawn is the Six of Pentacles.
which is what you were just talking about.
Yeah, juggling my energy. But yeah, we'll describe them in a moment. Oh, interesting. What's your card, Pippa?
My card is the Hermit.
Okay. So, Harriet, you took great pleasure in the High Priestess, which of course, if you have a spread for anybody, what would you know? But what do you think it means? We're talking. We decided we'd pull a card for what it meant for us today.
Yeah. So I am hearing you in the tarot course say, you know, when you read for other people, one thing not to do is to like laugh and whoop with delight when you turn over your favourite card and have a quick suck of in-breath when someone pulls the card that you don't want perhaps to interpret. But this one for me, it's one of the major arcanas, it's number 2, and it's about intuition, it's about embodying that side of yourself that where things occur to you, you don't really know why they might occur to you. You just receive stuff, and it's more like a knowing than a thinking thing. And I do think that this particular deck that we're using with Chris Ann's deck, I think her artwork is beautiful, and I love the purple coming into her crown and the lights and her green eyeshadow. I don't wear makeup, but maybe I should. And the beautiful earrings. I just think it's a lovely card.
But do you think you are the High Priestess? How do you feel if I put that to you?
No, I would. Well, I mean, I think we all embody all of the cards. But if I'm looking for meaning for this card today, I would say it's calling or asking me to use my intuition.
Okay, so intuition lead us on to another sort of sideline, because you said it took you a while to understand what your intuition was. Am I right in saying that?
I have always had a quiet little voice, but inside my head, and it became quite loud when it was time for me to finish my marriage. In fact, it was shouting at me.
Oh.
And I think it was at that stage that I realised that it was a little voice, and it wasn't a little train of thoughts or something to be ignored. It was something to listen to. And I started being more interested in intuition and spirituality. And I found you because you were a real person I could go to locally, as opposed to a sort of online thing,
person, yeah.
Which was definitely happening a lot of in the lockdown. There was a lot of Mind Valley that was going on for me, which was amazing, but led me to you because you are someone who uses their intuition and works with energy and spirituality every day. And you were someone that I could come and learn practical tools with, that I could share that side of myself that perhaps I had ignored for quite a long time, or just didn't really know what it was.
That is the thing with intuition. People say, can you teach me to be intuitive? And I'm not sure that you can teach someone that, but I suppose being aware of it, because I'm not aware that I use my intuition. It's a part of me, and that's when I think you've got the intuition, when you don't realise you're using it, when you're just acting on it.
I think that's what's been really interesting, is watching you teach what is so obvious and normal to you. And I'd love you at some point to tell your story about what it was like for you when you were younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people who are interested in intuition, I think it's, I mean, like Pippa, you were saying, it's a journey that once you start, you can't ever close the door, really, can you?
Yeah, and I think that even if you say you can't teach people to find their own intuition, you definitely guide them.
Oh yeah, guidance is different. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
And you do that brilliantly as well.
I think I'm quite bland. I like to make things simple. I think one of my reviews said Julie does everything simply. I didn't know if that was a compliment or a but yeah, she just meant that I make it simple, and I guess that's how I like things. Like, it has to be obvious for me.
Yeah, but I think intuition is obvious and it is simple.
It's the listening bit that's the
hard.
Heart.
And it's that tuning into to what is the simple truth of what you are receiving.
Yeah.
And it's the thinking that makes things complicated, and the stories that then come in. But if you stick with, the High Priestess.
2 is about partnerships and duality, and often when our intuition comes in, we don't know whether to do this or that. Is it just a voice? is it my thought? And I think what most people then do is tell a friend who says, I wouldn't do that if I was you, and then because you're then listening to what their opinion is, and then opinion is not the same as your intuition. But people do fear following their intuition for lots of reasons. But when you steadfast to it and the voice keeps coming, like you said, it was shouting at you, that's when things change. Isn't it?
So from that, would you say that because the High Priestess is a number 2, would you say that it's the partnership with yourself?
Definitely with that, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the Rider-Waite version, the High Priestess sits in front of what is called the veil of knowledge. And what I say to people is, you do know the answers, you're sitting in front of the veil of knowledge, but you're not accessing it. You need to look inside yourself to find what it's actually telling you. But this card is slightly different. But the Rider-Waites I love because they're just so obvious, well, to me. But I think I teach with them ones because the picture is easy. But I think this Chris Ann ones, the Lightseers, transform very well to be the next best one, and I use them for my readings. I think you two both do as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think that the artwork on them is more modern and
Definitely.
it resonates.
It takes
more.
the fear of terror away, I think, because it looks prettier. I think aesthetically people are, when you're doing a reading, they like the pictures, even though they don't know what they mean anyway.
They are, when you get to know the cards, though, they are definitely missing some symbolism.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
would say.
Yeah, the in-depth side of it. Yeah. Okay, Pippa, so your card, tell us about what you think your card is.
Okay, so as we're talking about from a perspective of today,
Yeah.
on the run up to this, I've been thinking
Tell us what your card is first. I'm not sure.
Oh,
if I
sorry,
said.
the Hermit. I'm the Hermit.
Number 9.
Number 9 from
Major.
the Major Arcana. And I've been asking myself, what is spirituality to me? And I do feel like, I mean, we've been through January. I have been the Hermit, definitely. I'm not normally one to kind of shut myself off and stay indoors, but I have actually been doing that for the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I feel like this is quite representative of where I am at the moment. And I think the Hermit goes into like a cave to meditate and to find himself. And I think that's what I've been doing when I've been questioning what is spirituality to me. But in the picture of this card, the Hermit is also sitting what looks like on top of a mountain. And I see that in the Rider-Waite as well, like he could be in a cave, but I kind of see him with a light on top of a mountain, kind of almost like taking himself out of the busyness of what's going on, and looking from a different perspective, almost looking from an outside view in to yourself. So I see spirituality for me as seeing myself as a part of something so much bigger than me.
Okay.
But also a real connection to who I am.
Interesting.
So I see it as like, inwards, but also in finding that there is a massive realisation that I am just one thread in this much bigger picture.
Yeah, but I totally agree with all of that. But also, the Hermit has the light on, and from how you're describing that, I think when we find ourselves, that's when we shine our light. And I think for you, moving forward, is that we all want to shine our light and share our information with people. Hence the reason we're doing the podcast, because we believe we may be able to put someone else's light to ignite their flame, if you like, to see them. But I love the fact the stairs on there are lit up, and it's a bit like the pathway is there, you just got to look, and that's that spending time on your own, isn't it? Yeah.
And I see this podcast as a real opportunity to do that as well, because I think it's great when we get together and we might have groups or little community gatherings, but this is an opportunity to get that discussion out in a much wider way.
And how we do that, we're not sure, hence the reason we thought we'd choose cards today. Okay, so my card is the Six of Pentacles, and it's a picture of hands juggling money is the one on the Rider-Waite. I still return to those pictures, do you both?
Yeah.
I still remember them. But it's that juggling of energy. So pentacles can be money or energy. Funny thing is, when you give readings for other people, they're always interested in the money side of things, because people think, if only I have enough money, I'll be okay. And I'm not saying everybody, but generalising, when I do readings at fairs, people want to know if they're going to be okay with money. But that's a common thought, I guess. But for me, it's the energy side of things. And I'm going on holiday next week. I'm going to Malta, leaving on Sunday morning.
Oh, I didn't
flying away. And I guess this week is all about trying to get everything done before I go away. And
Can I pour the tea?
Yes, and Harriet's going to pour tea, because we do need to have tea.
It's quite close to the microphone, so that might be what we hear. We are around the kitchen table.
I love being busy, and sometimes my head just explodes. And I suppose, do I mind? Thank you, Harriet. I get the names muddled up now in my madness. I love being busy, but I also love being quiet. But juggling my energy, I just love producing things. I love new ideas, and like this podcast, to me, teeth straight into that. Although it's been driving me out. I said this morning I had an argument with ChatGPT that's given me the wrong instructions of how to put something on YouTube. But I love technology, I love sorting all that out. So for me to get my teeth into something, that's what I love. But juggling my energy, I think sometimes I'm more tired than I want to be, more exhausted than I want to be. But I just love doing things. It's that buzz, and I suppose one outweighs the other. So for me, I'm always juggling my energy, but I don't mind. I love it.
I see this card as giving and receiving.
Yeah.
So like this podcast is your way of giving, and Pentacles is often, for me, it's wealth as well. Like wealth of the richness in your life, the experiences that you've had, the things that you can share. And I'm sure there will be some people who you will receive comments from. You've already had some people commenting saying, that they're excited about, or want, interested to listen, which just makes me feel, I don't know, very humble that people.
Well, funnily enough, you may not remember this, so I can't even think when it was, but I did a podcast many years ago. Yes. And I think I called it, Oh No, Not Another Podcast. And I want to say it's before lockdown. And I always remember I was on my way to badminton on a Friday, and I received a voice note from Harriet, and I opened it. And we didn't know each other that well then, did we? Mm. And I remember you just saying, oh, that was amazing. I loved hearing your voice. Thank you for doing that. It really made my day. Well, your comment made my day, because what more do we want than praise?
Which is the receiving,
Which is the receiving. And I guess everyone, whatever they do, wants to know, is anyone going to want this? When we start something new or put it out, that's what we want. We want to know that what we're doing makes a difference. But that also makes a difference to us, because that's enriching my life as well, when I know other people are enjoying things. But do you remember you sent that note?
Yeah, I do. I do very remember. It would have been after lockdown. But there's lots I could say. I love your voice, and
funny enough, as a Norfolk person with a very deep voice, I always think it sounds horrible, but just because you're hearing it through your own ears, aren't you?
But I think a lot of people will have said to you that your meditation voice and your voice when you teach has a real gentleness to it, and a real warmth, and that I think is what I heard on the podcast. You hear,
And I guess it is I know. I'll just tell this little story. When I first moved in with my now husband, and I had a meditation group, and he said to me, oh, who was doing the meditation? I said, well, it was me. He said, it didn't sound like your big booming voice. And of course, it wasn't my booming voice. It's just a change, isn't it? So I always think, again, when a student says, oh, I can't do meditations, I haven't got that voice, everybody has. You just tone it down, don't you?
It's the energy that you're giving out. And I think, if I remember rightly, I think I said to you, there was a bit, you read a script, and I said the bit that I loved was the bit that you hadn't written.
Yes.
So maybe that's why we're now doing this.
I hadn't written, or hadn't read out, you mean?
That you hadn't read out.
Hadn't read out, yeah. And I think there's a lot of that, isn't it?
Yeah. And going back to what you said about being a tiny strand in the universe, and the Hermit card, I think that brings up the paradox about how we are all part of something much bigger, but in order to access that tone, that energy, that peaceful kind of sharing wealth, you do have to know yourself, and that is the journey, isn't it? So it's paradoxical. It's about you, but it's not about you. It's about you, and it's not about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the realisation that I've had is that I am the only person who can say things the way I say them, do things the way I do them, and actually people are interested in that, which at first was like mind-blowing that anyone would be interested in listening to what I had to say.
But we spend our lives growing up thinking that nobody does want to hear us. I mean, my childhood was children should be seen and not heard. And as I replied to my mother, who wrote that rule? Because I was certainly a very talkative child. But it's that coming to that you may have something that people want to hear.
And I think there's also alongside that as well, I think I had an assumption that there was no point in me saying it because that's just obvious, and doesn't everybody just think like that? And
but that is my train of thought. I know people who know my company is called Healing Possibilities, and what I'd like to call it is pointing out the bleeding obvious. But I don't think that would pull in many people. But literally, I can honestly say most of the tarot readings that I give are all just telling people something they already know. And even when people come to healings and they have a realisation, I'll say to them, but you knew that. But it does take sometimes someone else to hear it said in a different way that brings that realisation. And this is what I think with the hermit, that's the light, is that we are sharing the light and helping to put someone else's light on.
Yeah, and I think for me that's what this podcast is about. There's so much in the world that's so loud, like the story that I believed for many years, the news, all of that stuff. It, and conspiracy theories apart, or whatever you think about all of it, it's not for me the light of what makes everything tick and everything it's not what people really care about. It's just a distraction.
Oh yes.
It's a distraction from you connecting to your intuition, to your strand, to your bit that you can weave into the world. And I think that this podcast for me is just trying to address the balance of it. Like they get to shout really loudly, yes. whoever they are, whatever the stories are. Yeah. So this is about, for me, it's about peddling it's about peddling the something else to think about that might be obvious to some of us, or it might encourage people to believe or to, just explore a little bit deeper, which is what spirituality is for me. I think it's exploring life on a deeper level. What is actually going on here? What are the simple truths? What is really true here?
That's the thing as
amongst
well,
the noise.
That light, it isn't like this massive wow explosion moment. It's just like, it might even start off as like something really small, just like a glimmer, and then you're like, oh, actually if I follow that and continue with that, and you end up discovering all of this other stuff.
But you said about that you realise your story, you didn't believe that anymore, but it wasn't that story wasn't true, i.e. your marriage. It's just that I think sometimes we see things differently and we change. So I think that is knowing that, because people say, I get this a lot, people say, I was married before, but I shouldn't have done that was the wrong person. And I tried to say to them, but no one's the wrong person. And I heard a guy, and I think his name is Matt Gabor. I probably got that wrong, but that sounds like his name.
The other way around.
Is it Gabor Mate? There we go. I've seen it written, I hadn't heard it. And he said that we all marry our parents to repair the trauma of who we were when we were young. And that sounds really dramatic. And I can say I didn't have a traumatic parenthood or childhood, but it's about not thinking of it like that. But yes, I think they're right. I definitely married my father as such, and not that we're going to go into that, but it's realising that nothing was wrong, but you can change what isn't working anymore. And that's what I truly believe about opening up to yourself, is that finding a way that you can change it so that it's good for you.
Yeah, I think we're all ultimately looking for love.
Yes.
And I think the bit about marrying...
And we look for love and don't know what it is, so we're looking for something we have no clue, really. It's an illusion, isn't it?
I think that the marrying thing is interesting, but I think from what I can remember, the bit that resonated with me was you're looking for ways in which you didn't get love as a child.
Yes, that's the crux
and
of
that becomes the story.
Yes.
Like how, whatever as a child you made those unmet needs mean about yourself.
Yes.
Is then the story that you then live into, and you're always trying to make up for that. And that's the story.
Yeah.
Because the other story is, as Pippa said, we're a strand of light in something much bigger than ourselves, but somehow that's not. It takes some kind of realization. I think I've come to realize something happens in your life, or some people, I think it happens to overnight. They have some amazing experience. That's the Byron Katie who was like desperately depressed, and then she gets the download, and then that's it. Never again worries or ever looks back on anything. But other people, maybe it happens slower, or there are glimpses.
Or it happens again and again, because that's the other classic, isn't it? You get away from what you weren't enjoying, and then you go and re-find yourself in a similar circle.
Because you've not realised.
Yeah, we've not realised
what's going on. Because
but again,
you've
it's
not
not
looked deeper.
It's not wrong. It's just it's the thing. It takes us a journey, and our whole life is a journey. I hate that word, on a journey.
Yeah,
but it is about, we are on a journey to find out, how do we want to live?
Oh, I've said numerous times recently, if you're expecting some kind of marvellous end game, there isn't one.
Because even death, the ultimate healing, is not the end game, because, oh boy, you'll come on and do it all again. Maybe in a different guise, but yeah, it is about working out what you want to do in this lifetime. Yeah,
or working out what lights you up.
What lights you up.
And that, for me, has been about... It's been about what you were saying, Pippa, about paying attention to the glimpses or the little flickers that you might get. When you read something, or when you see something that does excite you, follow that. Not because
finding your joy.
Well, that's
finding your happiness. So leading on to my workshops that I've got, they're not workshops, they're day retreats. So I always sort of laugh, how can you have a retreat in a day? But it's a buzzword, so I put it out there. But literally, people often say to me, I just want to know my purpose in life. And my honest answer to that is to be happy. And my mum, bless her, used to say, oh, just be happy, dear. And I used to think, you silly old woman, what do you know? And years later, I realised, yes, she was right. What does make you happy? And I think finding that, and we're going to talk about gratitude probably, because that's a huge thing. We've already got a rich life from what we have around us. But yeah, finding your happiness.
But that's tricky. And you'd probably say I've got a whole story about that.
And surely Julie would say, only if you say it's tricky.
She would say that.
I would say that.
So I'll say, for me, that's what you've said is I agree with that. But for me, the journey is figuring all that out.
Yeah, of course. But it's finding joy in small moments. And I think some people think you've got to be happy all the time. And someone said the other day, do you wake up chirping? I said, well, actually, I do. I wake up and I'm talking the minute I wake up. But am I always happy? No, not 24/7. But I am good at looking for things that make me happy. And if it's a few small moments in a day sometimes, for me, that may be as good as it gets that day. But yeah.
Yeah, I think off the back of that, for me, it was... when we're talking about love as well, it was actually finding the love for myself and not looking for it outside of myself. So I think I spent a lot of my younger years expecting someone else to make me happy, or a situation to make me happy, or if something went wrong, it would be therefore it's because of that. Or and actually, when you own it and actually find that love for yourself, and then everything from that is because you love yourself. So your experiences, your situations, the people that you choose to have around you, you choose out of love for yourself, because why wouldn't you choose joy, happiness, and I think those things actually do get to choose.
Yeah. Every day is a choice, I would say.
Yeah.
Doesn't always seem like that.
No. And especially in, for sure, there's big, stressful situations, but we can still choose how we respond to those as well. And having that realisation is huge. And I think that is, for me anyway, is definitely where happiness stems from. That is the core of happiness. Doing things that I am choosing for my own highest good, and as a result that ripples out and ends up being for more people's highest good as well.
So I was listening to something the other day, I listened to loads of stuff, and it's about people can do whatever they want, but they have to be prepared to pay the consequence. And I can't remember exactly along the lines because my brain is filled with so much stuff, but this man was saying, but I don't want to work, I just want to be at home. And so the person doing the interview said, yeah, but the consequence of that is you won't have any money. And they said, yeah, I know. So he chose to live a very, very frugal life. He wasn't particularly happy, but he didn't want to go to work. He didn't want to have a job. So I don't know what you think about that. Everything's got a consequence, hasn't it? We're not talking about telling people off. We're talking about your own consequence. Like if you don't do exercise, your body won't be strong. That's the sort of consequence I'm talking about. I'm not talking about horrendous consequences, but also when we make choices, it's about wondering what the consequence of that choice might be. And I do think that's with our words and our thoughts. So thoughts, we don't always monitor them, but we can often choose what comes out of our mouths. And I always think that that's the choice bit, isn't it? About how we speak to others and our kindness that we show.
And that's how we manifest our world, isn't it?
About spelling, I often say, I'm not particularly into witchcraft, it's not something I've followed, but we do create spells with our words. So when we say we can't, that's tricky, that's difficult, that's not going to happen, that's exactly what will happen. So I do think a lot of it is about language, about how we speak. And I suppose that's one of the things I do pick people up on, which they could get pretty annoyed about if they spend a day with me. But it is about how they say things, really.
Yeah, but I think that's one of your special talents, if you like, is stating the bleeding obvious, is using language as a way of reading people, because language and how you speak about yourself is about what you believe, what you're believing about yourself to be true. Pippa, you speak quite a lot about choice in a way that I really like. When you're saying yes to something, you're also saying no to something else. And if you put yourself in that equation, if you put yourself in the middle of that, then that's when the boundary things, which I always find quite tricky to navigate. I'm better now. Boundaries and choices. I'm not very good, but maybe you could speak about.
Is there any more tea in the pot?
Is there any more? I don't think there is actually.
We've come for a tea party.
Okay, so I suppose I could use my intention. My intention for, as I work with moon cycles, so my intention for this moon cycle has been to prioritise myself. So I have been making decisions and choices for myself that I feel are going to benefit me, which some people might see as being selfish. I see it as being I'm nourishing my own needs, and I think that we all need to we should all want to do that for ourselves. So I've been making choices to go to the gym, to get back to my cold water practice, and to consider my own wellness. And in the process of that, I am saying no to invites out. I am saying no to putting my energy into places where, not at my detriment, maybe at my detriment. I'm just placing my focus on supporting my own well-being, and the point of me doing that is to enable me to be in a position where my cup is so full that I can support others.
And if we just give a bit of background here, Pippa has got 2 teenage children.
Yes.
Yeah, and a husband, so it's not like she lives on her own. I think sometimes people think we all live in little castles with just ourselves to please, and that's not true. So when you say you're doing things to benefit yourself, it's not at the detriment of the other people surrounding you. You are still obviously considering them.
Yeah, and when I was talking about this to somebody the other day actually, and I said I actually see my family as a part of me prioritising myself. So, you know, there's a lot going on at home at the moment, and I am putting my energy there instead of into social events maybe, or other things that might make me more tired. Instead, I'm having nice early nights so that I am available for the things I want to be available for.
Yeah, I love that. So I think what I hear you say is about focus, isn't it? Where are you focusing your attention and your energy, and choosing that? Because wherever your attention goes, your energy flows, and then that then creates what you experience.
And have a new saying there.
Understanding that,
and bringing an awareness to your focus. Where is your focus?
Yeah.
Because that is, you know, which goes back to your language. If your focus is always on, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, and the story, that's what you'll get more of until like you would say, you know, the pattern repeats and you get it, kind of thing.
The energy flow thing. I mean, like, I think we'd all agree that Reiki made a massive difference to all of our lives, and I think it's because it gives you that understanding of the energy that you hold within you, and how actually you can choose and you can direct it, and you can open, close. And whereas I think prior to that, maybe I thought things were outside of my control, and
that is I suppose the danger is the wrong word, but people think, oh, I can't control that. But I think you need to control things, but it's about what is in your control. And where there's a little diagram, isn't there, that's about what you can control is what you think, what you say, and to a large extent what you do, and what you can't control is what other people think. So I think that's a lot of what, like you're saying, some people may think that that's selfish. Well, I think I'm the most selfish person I know, because I make sure I'm okay first before I do things for others. Of course, that's not entirely true, but that would be my story. But it is about just looking for yourself first and seeing where
always
you
put your
can.
own oxygen mask on.
Yes, an oxygen mask. Yes, I should remember that when I'm going to Malta. That I should put my own mask on first.
I love the phrase, whose business are you in?
Yes.
There are 3 types of business. Is it your business? Is it other people's business? Or is it God's or the universe, or whoever you want to say business? And, you know, if you're in someone else's business, then who's in your business? I love that one as well.
Yes,
if you're busy worrying or fretting or thinking about, you know, what's going on in someone else's life, none of us can possibly know what it's like to be someone else.
No.
And I think that is so profound if we stop and really take that in. No one's ever had our experiences. They weren't born into the same conditions. They don't have the same character, or all of it. And that's just mind-blowing, isn't it? So that means all the advice that you give to people, don't need to do that anymore. All the worrying that you need to do about trying to understand what someone else is going to think about what you're saying, don't need to do that anymore. It's liberating.
It is.
And there are some things that are just mysterious. Who knows why they happen? And that is life, isn't it? And life is going to happen regardless. Stuff's going to happen that we're not going to like, stuff that's going to happen that we're going to love. But if you can bring it back to like what's actually going on in your life and what's important to you, bring it back to you, then
Because even when we describe our story to someone else, and I say this to people endlessly about relationships, when you meet somebody new, male or female, romantic or otherwise, don't describe your story to them to then see if they like you. There are lots of people do this, and the thing is, we've all had different stories, and you run it through your own filters, and if it wasn't what happened to you, you have no understanding. You might go, oh yeah, I get that. But also when you describe yourself, and most people tell the story of the darkest moments, then all the other person would possibly see you as a victim or something bad, or oh dear, she's that person. So when you meet someone, just say, hello, I'm Julie. You know, you don't have to describe who you are. And in fact, when people ask me what job I do, I've moved recently to Ranworth, so I'm sort of in with the different people. And I suppose depending on what effect I think the answer will get, when people ask me what do, I love to say to people who I can clearly tell wouldn't like it, I say I'm a clairvoyant. And the
You like to create mischief, though.
and the way this lady's lips close, I just, sucking a lemon springs to mind. And, oh, you do that, do you? And it just made me laugh. Or something I might say, oh, I teach Reiki, or I might say I go dancing, but it just amuses me that I like to place myself as a description, depending what I think will shock people the most. That's me being cheeky, I guess.
Maybe we could just explain a bit about Reiki to people, because you brought that up, and I think you're right, that is our probably unifying thing.
Unifying. So I learned Reiki from my master, is Carol Armand. I don't know of her anymore, but that's a lady I met, and I said I didn't believe in Reiki. Someone told me that someone gives you the power, and I thought, oh, I've got my own power, having none of that, old squit. But when I met Carol, she shared it differently. I'd also then learnt tarot with her, and I liked the way she's a bit like me, I guess. She says things as they are. She said, oh, you have an attunement, but you use your own power. It's just a way of connecting with yourself. So I thought, I'll give that a go. And this is years down the line from doing massage and reflexology. And I guess when I did my Reiki, I did my master's back in 2015, so what's that, 11 years ago. Did it change me? Yes, it gave me a 3-second delay. This is talking about what I learned for me. So rather than react to everything that somebody said, usually in a bit of a sharp way, because I have got a bit of a sharp tongue, I would think, I'll have to give that a moment's thought. It gave me a delay. I didn't react so quickly. I learnt to respond, and I can honestly say that is what changed me for my initial Reiki. Then when I did my masters, because that suited my ego, thinking I'm going to be a Reiki master, what I realised that day, or that over the weekend, was actually I'm an okay person. And it amused me that it took me that to make me know that I'm okay. And that's because I totally looked within inside myself and I thought, yeah, I'm okay. So that was what Reiki did for me, and I was very keen to share that with others. If I could give them that same feeling of I'm okay, that was my objective really. And as a healer, to share that with other people. And also it's simple, it's easy. I've only met one person who didn't feel anything when I was teaching it, and there'd have been reasons for that, I'm sure. But I just think that to pass on that healing and that peace is just an amazing energy to share. But that's my Reiki story. So I forget, because you've done Reiki with someone else, and then...
Yeah, so
This is Harriet I'm talking to now. You'll hear her voice. We haven't introduced ourselves.
I trained as a homeopath way back when. I can't remember when that was. Early 20s. Now 55.
What, your 20s?
Yeah, my 20s.
Well, not 1920.
When I was in my 20s, and during homeopathy college, someone came up to me, and they were all doing this thing around the table, and I sort of didn't know what it was, and I sat down, and this lady put her hands towards my lower back, and my lower back instantly felt warm and kind of tingling, and I can remember I leapt up off the chair, and I was, I'm not ready for that yet. It was like homeopathy was enough of I'd been very scientific and very kind of right brain. Is that the right?
Yeah,
is that the right one?
Structured, is it?
Structured,
yeah.
Very through the education route. So yeah, I definitely felt it and rejected it. And then I had a very lovely lady, Gretel Bryce, who came to my house, and I've got 2 treatment rooms in the front of my house, and she practiced Reiki, reflexology and massage from there, and we became great friends. And she kept saying, you should, and she really was, she was most insistent, you should learn Reiki 1. And I was like, and I was very non-committal about it, so I literally did it probably to please her and to stop her going on at me.
Best way.
And that was a moment. I'm getting goosebumps now. I had this experience where I definitely met my first guide, and that was just so not what my life had ever been about, but it was such an unmistakably amazing experience, very profound. I cried, all of that stuff was going on, and I did my Reiki 2 with her, and I never practiced it. But for me, I've always been quite aware of how my body feels, like if I'm tired or if I have got loads of energy and I need to go for a run. I've always been pretty active. When I'm dancing, like if there's a part of me that just doesn't feel right, then I know about it. I'm not some people use their bodies as head taxis, don't they?
I like that.
Not really, no real connection. So Reiki for me was a real way of interpreting how those sensations that I'd always had and always been aware of, they kind of like sort of gave me a sort of framework as to what to do with them, really. But I didn't, as I say, share it. And then when I met you, I then came and did Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. That's you, Julie, pointing out.
Yeah, she's pointing at.
Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki Master. And I think revisiting it later on made me just sort of, it was just so undeniably, obviously true for me to feel it, use it, sense it, that I love Reiki because of the way it's a bit like I akin it to a bit like a pet. You know how they wheedle their way into your like heart and your love.
There, yeah.
Always, and it has, you know, and you sort of think, oh, you're just kind of, I think you just get turn, the light just goes on. Maybe, I don't know. It all sounds very cliched. It's very subtle. But it unmistakably, looking back, it has had times where I've become attuned, where my world has opened up massively. It
doesn't matter that it took that long, though, that's what I want to say, because even though you not rejected it before, but it wasn't for you then, don't ever give up on that, I want to say to people, if, you know...
Yes.
That
there's no wasted work.
Never.
And I definitely find that I use it in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And it's become a way of knowing, sensing, feeling.
As we're talking about it now, my hands and feet are going. As soon as I talk about it, that happens. So you can switch it on.
I mean, there's this whole thing, isn't it? And it is, you're right, it's a very easy way of connecting with people because you're feeling it energetically. So all that energetic stuff that I'd always been interested in, I'd always been curious about, was able to be used, channeled, whatever you want to say.
So Reiki's a good start.
Yes, sorry, that's quite a long
No, that's fine. Pippa, how about you?
Oh God, so about in 2024, I think I first came to you, and Julie, that is, and I did my Reiki 1 after doing a tarot course, and then very quickly signed up to Reiki.
Oh, we've got a little barky Pip. You just have to give her a second. Harriet's throwing cheese.
Sorry, Pippa.
That's okay. Yeah, we had Pip, the
Pip
dog, and Pippa, me.
Yeah, we call Pip.
Pip.
No worries.
Pip. So I did Reiki 1, absolutely loved it. I felt like it connected me to my body, to myself. It made me realise that I had always felt this energy, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't. So, like you said, like actually being able to name it and then have a way to utilise it and use it in everyday life was mind-blowing.
And that's what it's perfect for. It's an everyday skill. It's not like your crystal healing where you get your crystals out, although you can have them on your body. But the Reiki is with you at all times.
You tap into. I mean, like you say you're off on an aeroplane. I can remember shortly after doing the Reiki courses, sitting on an aeroplane and just spending a good hour doing some self Reiki, because like sometimes I get my ears feel really funny and I get quite unbalanced on an aeroplane, and it was like a game changer just sitting there and connecting and really feeling grounded with it as well. And doing Reiki 2 and discovering that actually this could be a thing, I could be a practitioner. And I decided to do Reiki Master quite soon after that as well, because I was just soaking up the information, and I just felt like I was a sponge, and still am, still signing up to all the courses, because I just find them so valuable in everything I do. But like you, Harriet, everything that I put out there, all of my offerings involve Reiki in some form, whether people know or not. as
matter.
well. Doesn't matter.
Because I always say on my website, it says I offer Reiki, crystals or sound, but when people come, they'll just get a mixture of all of it. Harriet once showed me one of her leaflets she'd done, and I said, "You've missed Reiki off there." She went, "I'm not sure," or that was might be maybe an advert.
Yeah.
So she put it on, and literally that afternoon someone phoned her for Reiki. And the thing is, they don't really know what Reiki is, but they'll have heard of it. Most people in Norfolk call it Reiki. Or someone did phone up and ask for some Reiki. Had no clue what that was, but she meant Reiki. But yeah, so Reiki is really, I would think, something and nothing. But it is absolutely amazing. But I like Reiki 1 to be a journey of the self, but you can offer it to others as well. But I just think if people took Reiki 1 and just learned to find their own light, I think that's a really good start.
And the philosophy behind it, or the little poem,
Oh yes,
it encompasses a lot, doesn't it?
So we're going to say it. So for today only, anger not, worry not, be grateful and humble, do our work with appreciation, and be kind to all living things.
I mean, it's a bit like the 4 agreements, isn't
Yes,
it? If you
totally.
come across that, there's not much that if you did that, that you wouldn't be.
Yeah. But the
living
most
a good
important
life.
living thing to be kind to is yourself. And we're coming back to your hermit time where you have just been focusing on yourself. And even for me, although I'm busy, being busy nourishes me. It's a different thing, isn't it? I love to be nourished by finding new ways of offering what I give to other people. Especially as I've moved, I want to do different things where I am now. So my relaxation is my crocheting. But I thought I'd finished my jumper, went to put the sleeves on and they were too tight, so I had to unpick both sleeves. But it's a lesson of patience, isn't it? I think you call it frogging, when you have to take something out and start again. No idea. My daughter tells me, just frog it, mother. Anyway, but Reiki is definitely about the self, I think.
Yeah, and the awareness of like the worry aspect and how pointless. And I think before Reiki, I think society kind of almost wants you to worry about everything, and the realisation that actually there is no need for me to worry. It doesn't change or...
Well, it either makes things happen or stops things happening. And actually when catastrophe things happen, you probably haven't even thought about it. And this is that can then make people anxious, telling them that. But I just think you never know what's round the corner, so why not just expect the best? Yeah, so why worry?
People call it a poor use of your imagination, don't they, worrying? Because you're anticipating the worst. Why are you using...
Well, you're creating a future that hasn't happened. That's my latest one I keep saying to people.
But I think I was I don't often say this, but I think I was quite fortunate in that I was probably... I don't seem to have been born a worrier.
No.
So I find it quite hard to relate to.
Yeah, my mum was a worrier, but I never knew what she was worrying about. She was always a little bit worried about something. There was days the word anxiety didn't exist, did it? I think it's come in the last, 10 years. But I would have said my mum was probably an anxious person, but I certainly hadn't learnt that from her. So I'm quite grateful that wasn't in my understanding, really.
I mean, I can see that, and I have worried about things, so it's not that I never worry.
But you don't foresee worry, you don't.
It's just not just doesn't make you resourceful, does it? It's not a resourceful state, and in order to meet life as it happens, without trying to resist it, without trying to change it, and life will happen. There's nothing that we can do, to stop terrible things happening. But instead of, living to anticipate all of that may or may not happen, actually being present and coping when it happens in order to be more resourceful in that state, then it's about being...
I think look for solutions is what I think. I'm a solutioner. Look for solutions.
You're a Virgo.
No, I'm not a Virgo.
I thought you were a Virgo.
There you go. I like balance. This is my card, is the balance, isn't it? So... we've got about 5 minutes to go, ladies.
Have we really rattled
away.
off?
We didn't know how that was going to happen. I just pressed... I haven't pressed record now.
Oh, funny.
That'd be really funny, wouldn't it? So, Harriet, what have you thought about... has your High Priestess helped you in our session?
I think there's so much to say. I'm quite surprised at how much there is to say and which threads to follow. I've just followed the threads that have... made me feel excited to say inside. So I've
And
kind
has that been okay for you?
Has that been okay for me? I very much enjoyed the experience, much more than perhaps I thought I might.
Because I'm a very unstructured person, believe it or not, and I just pressed play. This is our test, but there we go.
It's our test podcast.
Our test podcast. Pippa, how about the Hermit? How have you felt about that?
Yeah, I think it's been perfect for this particular moment in time. And I do think that this podcast has so much possibility, and I think it will open up opportunities not just for us but for the people who are listening as well. So I do see that little glimmer of light that the Hermit is holding.
Yeah, shining your light too.
Hoping to connect with others.
Yeah.
Absolutely, always.
So for me, juggling my energy, and I know now this afternoon I'll be trying to get this on Podbean as our first one, but it will eventually go on all of the platforms, so please be patient with that. But we do want you to email in, send us questions. There is a Facebook page, and you can ask us questions or subjects you'd like us to talk about. We're open for that. But also, if any of you would like us to give you a shout out for your business, so if you've got something you want a shout out to, I think it has to be spiritually related. Should we keep it to that?
Yeah.
Otherwise we get all sorts coming on there. But I just want to say what we've got coming up. We are in February. So for me, the events this week, I do gong bars with Jay Hewitt. Those who come to those will know that. And on Thursday the 5th, the gong bath is at Coltishall / Horsford. Horsted. I always get that wrong. I knew. I was looking to Harriet for inspiration to what I was going to ask. And then on Saturday the 21st of February we have 2 floating gong baths. That's at Ludham High Mill Pool, and they're 4:30 and 6:30. You do need to book for the floating ones, which is another subject we'll talk about later, but the other one at Coltishall you could just turn up. And these two,
And we have our sound and Reiki bath at St Lawrence Centre in South Walsham on the second Monday of every month, and so that makes it February the 9th at 7 o'clock. You can book from Pippa's website or my website, or you can turn up. Please bring a mat, a pillow and a blanket. Some people turn up with nothing.
Yeah.
First gong bath I ever went to, it's like massive sleepover vibes. You need to bring some
Yes.
stuff to keep you comfy on the floor. Our sound bath, Pippa offers Reiki, so it's a bit different, as in you get 2 for 1.
Yep.
And if you've never been to a sound bath before, I'm sure we will talk about that another week, but that is something else that we all absolutely love, the sound of lots of different instruments and what that can do to
all those vibrations.
There's so many things to talk about.
There are, which is
So many
exciting.
We say we're not going to have an agenda, but we may have to sometimes steer it, I figured. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a wrap, ladies, and
we'd love to know your comments, your
for
thoughts.
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
What we've said. We are 3 women around a kitchen table sharing our opinions, really, at the end of the day. Not absolute truths.
But there are truths.
There are truths, but reflections on anything that we've said would be very welcome, because it's food for thought. all
Food
of
for
it.
thought. And remember, be kind. Bye for now.